Picture this. You come home from work, you're tired, maybe a little distracted, and you call out to your dog. And they come to you. But instead of that full body wiggle you're used to, they kind of slink over, tail low, eyes soft and uncertain. They're there, but something is slightly dimmed. And you think, off day I guess, and you move on. I need to tell you something about that moment. That quiet, easy to miss moment. It might not be random. It might be your dog sending you the only message they know how to send. That something in your shared daily life is making them feel unsettled. And the part that will stay with you after this video, the things causing it are almost certainly things you do out of love. Hi, I'm Dr. McKenna. I've been a practicing veterinarian for more than 2 decades, and in all that time, the most consistent source of emotional stress I see in dogs isn't neglect, it isn't mistreatment. It's well-intentioned habits that land differently inside a dog's brain than we expect. Today we're going to talk about 10 of them, things most owners do every single day without realizing the quiet toll they take. Not because you're doing something wrong as a person, but because nobody ever explained the gap between what you mean and what your dog actually hears. If your dog has seemed a little anxious, a little clingy, a little flat lately, and you can't explain why, this video is for you. Grab a notebook if you like, let's get into it. Before we get to the list, I want to give you one idea that makes everything else make sense. Your dog does not live in the same world you do. That sounds obvious, but we forget it every single day. Here's the clearest way I've found to explain it. Imagine you move to a country where you don't speak the language. You don't know the customs. You can't read anything. You're navigating entirely by watching other people's faces, their posture, the rhythm of their voices, trying to piece together what's safe, what's good, and what's coming next. That is every day for your dog. They are exceptional readers of you, of your breathing, your body language, your emotional state. They evolved to be. But they are also working with an incomplete picture. And what we do, without knowing it, sometimes sends them exactly the wrong information. The 10 things I'm about to share aren't dramatic. They won't show up on an X-ray or a blood panel, but they show up in behavior. In a dog that's hard to settle, a dog that started hiding, a dog that used to light up when you walked in and now just comes over. Let's start with something you probably did this morning. Think about the last walk you took with your dog. Did you let them stop freely? Or did you keep a steady pace, give a gentle tug when they lingered too long at a lamppost, and move them along because you had 15 minutes and a half-mile to cover? Most of us do this. I've done it with my own dog. Here's what you need to know. A dog's nose contains roughly 300 million scent receptors. Humans have about 6 million. The part of the dog's brain devoted to processing smell is proportionally 40 times larger than ours. When your dog stops at a fire hydrant or a patch of grass, they're not wasting time. They're reading information. Who came through here, how long ago, whether that animal was healthy or stressed, whether it was a threat or a neighbor. It is their primary way of orienting to the world. Research in veterinary behavioral science has consistently found that dogs given unstructured sniff time during walks show measurably lower cortisol levels than dogs walked at a brisk, human-paced clip. Sniffing is not a delay in the walk. For your dog, sniffing is the walk. The fix costs nothing. Give them 10 unstructured minutes where they lead and you follow. Let them stop. Let them process. What looks like dawdling to you is one of the most mentally enriching things your dog can experience. I know this one is going to land hard because it comes entirely from love. Most dogs do not enjoy being hugged, not in the way we mean it. When you wrap your arms around your dog and pull them close, what you're expressing in your emotional language is warmth, closeness, safety. What your dog's nervous system registers in their language is, I am physically restrained and I cannot move if I need to. In dog social behavior, placing a limb or body over another dog is a pressure signal. It signals status or control. It is not neutral. Some dogs have been hugged so often by people they love that they've learned to tolerate it. They go still, they wait it out. But tolerance and enjoyment are not the same thing. Research published out of the University of British Columbia looked at over 250 photographs of people hugging their dogs and evaluated the dog's body language frame by frame. In more than 80% of the images, the dog was displaying at least one clear stress signal: ears pinned back, eyes showing white at the edge, head turned away, tail held low. This doesn't mean physical affection is off the table. It means learn your dog's signals. If they lean into you and stay soft and relaxed, follow their lead. If they stiffen, go very still, or turn their face away, that stillness isn't peace. That's a dog waiting for it to end. Show them love in the language they understand. Long strokes along their flank, sitting quietly beside them, a calm, unhurried voice. These land. Between dogs, a prolonged, direct stare is not affection. It is a challenge. It is the pre-conflict signal in almost every canid species on Earth. And yet we do it constantly. We look into our dog's eyes with complete adoration while they're eating. We hold their face and look right at them. We stare across the room to get their attention. For dogs who have deep trust built up over years, hard eye contact from their person can become neutral. They've learned it doesn't mean what it would mean from another dog. But for younger dogs, anxious dogs, newly adopted dogs, or any dog in a tense situation, prolonged direct eye contact from a leaning forward human activates the same circuits in their brain that it would if a strange dog did it. The alternative is something called the soft blink. It's a real behavioral tool, not a concept I invented. Look at your dog gently, let your eyes soften, slightly unfocused, and do a slow, deliberate blink. Then look away. If they blink back, which they often will, that's them returning the gesture. It is, genuinely, the dog equivalent of a warm smile. Try it tonight. Your dog does not understand your words. I want to be clear about that because it matters here. They understand your tone, your rhythm, the pace and pitch of how you speak. And this creates a very specific problem that almost every owner I've worked with falls into at some point. When our dogs are frightened, during a thunderstorm or fireworks or a vet visit, our instinct is to comfort them with a soft, high, cooing voice. It's okay, sweetheart, you're fine, it's okay, it's okay. Gentle, repetitive, sing-songy. Here's the problem. That particular voice pattern, high-pitched, lilting, rhythmically excited, is the same voice you use when you're happy and energized, when you're offering a treat, when you're inviting play. To your dog, that vocal pattern means something elevated is happening, something stimulating. It does not communicate calm. What actually registers as safe and settled to a dog is a low, slow, even voice. Not flat or emotionless, just unhurried. Think of how you talk to a close friend who is having a hard day. You wouldn't chirp at them. You'd slow down and come down in pitch. Drop your voice, slow your cadence, keep your body still. That's what safety actually sounds like. Raise your hand, honestly, if you've ever done this. You pick up the leash, your dog immediately loses their mind with excitement, spinning, bouncing, and then you hang it back up because it was a mistake, or you were looking for your keys, or you needed to grab your phone first. To you, 30 seconds. To your dog, the full emotional arc of anticipation and letdown. And when this happens repeatedly, over weeks, over months, dogs begin to develop something I see in the clinic that I describe as anticipatory anxiety. The cue that used to mean joy starts to carry uncertainty. Some dogs eventually stop reacting to the leash altogether, not because they don't want the walk, but because their brain learned that the spike of excitement leads to disappointment as often as it leads to going anywhere. The same thing applies to saying want to go outside while you're settled on the couch with no intention of moving. To picking up your keys before sitting back down at your desk. Your dog is tracking you constantly. These small false signals accumulate. The solution is simple. Be intentional about the cues you initiate. If you accidentally trigger the excitement cycle before you're ready, follow through when you can. Even a brief 5-minute walk honors the signal and maintains trust in what the cue means. Your dog does not have to greet every dog they pass on the street, and they don't have to let every enthusiastic child run up and hug them, even if they've never snapped at anyone in their life. We do this with genuine warmth and good intentions. He's friendly, don't worry, and then we pull our dog forward before either animal has had a moment to signal readiness. Or we hold our dog still while a stranger leans over their head because we trust our dog completely. What we're doing in those moments is removing our dog's ability to consent to a social interaction. In natural dog behavior, greetings are carefully choreographed. A wide arc approach, a curved body, nose to tail investigation. It's a sequence, and every step in it communicates information and gives each animal the chance to read and respond. When we short circuit that sequence, or when we hold a dog in place while an unfamiliar person reaches over their head, we're removing their control in a situation that already carries social weight. And over time, dogs who are repeatedly put in these situations without any say in the matter can develop what looks like reactive or aggressive behavior. Not because they're dangerous, but because every gentler communication they tried, the slow approach, the slight curve, the pause, was consistently ignored. You are completely within your rights to advocate for your dog. She needs a moment before meeting new dogs is not antisocial. It is the most responsible thing you can say. This one is the most subtle on this list, and I think it carries the most weight. Dogs are extraordinarily attuned to human emotional states, not because they're empathetic the way another human is empathetic, but because they evolved over thousands of years specifically to read us with precision and speed. Changes in your breathing rate, your posture, the cortisol in your perspiration, your heart rate. Your dog is detecting all of it, often before you've consciously registered that you're stressed yourself. Which means that when you are anxious or grieving or carrying the weight of a difficult season in your life, your dog is living inside that atmosphere every single day. They can't locate the source of the threat. They can't fix it or reason about it. They only know that the person who is supposed to be their safe base is emitting signals that say the environment isn't safe. In the clinic, this shows up as generalized anxiety, clinginess, changes in appetite, and sometimes regression in dogs whose owners are going through hard periods. The dog isn't malfunctioning. They're responding accurately to information they're receiving from you. I'm not telling you to suppress your emotions around your dog. That isn't realistic and it isn't healthy. What I'm saying is this: the daily habits that regulate your own nervous system also regulate theirs. A walk where you're genuinely present, phone in your pocket, paying attention to the world around you is one of them. A regulated owner is genuinely the best thing you can provide for an anxious dog. When your dog chews something they shouldn't, or has an accident inside, or does something that genuinely frustrated you, do you say, "Bad dog"? Most people do. I've done it too in an exhausted moment, so I'm not here to lecture. But here is the clinical reality. Dogs do not have the cognitive architecture to experience shame. They cannot hold an understanding of themselves as morally flawed. What they understand is consequence, timing, association, and pattern. When you come home to a chewed cushion and say, "Bad dog," with frustration in your voice, your dog has already neurologically moved past the chewing. They don't remember it in the way you're imagining. What they are responding to right now in this moment is the look on your face and the sound of your voice. And what they're learning is, when my person comes home, sometimes they become frightening. The moment passes, but the association begins to accumulate. Discipline after the fact simply does not work, not because your dog is stubborn, but because the behavioral connection between the action and the consequence was never made. The only thing bad dog communicates without context is threat. What works is interruption in the moment, followed immediately by a redirect. What works is looking at why the behavior happened: boredom, anxiety, insufficient exercise, insufficient outlets, and addressing that. And for everything that's already happened, clean it up quietly and move on. The relationship is too important to spend it on retribution for something the dog's brain has already let go of. REM sleep in dogs looks alarming if you've never seen it. Twitching paws, soft whimpers, sometimes legs that paddle like they're mid-run. It's dramatic enough that owners often reach in to touch the dog or call their name, worried something's wrong. I understand the instinct, but here's what's happening. Dogs dream. We have solid scientific evidence for this. Their brains cycle through active sleep phases in ways that closely resemble our own. And during those phases, their nervous system is doing essential work, processing and consolidating the day's experiences, reinforcing learned behaviors, restoring emotional regulation. When you wake a dog mid-cycle, you're not rescuing them from distress in most cases. You're interrupting neurological restoration and producing a dog who is genuinely disoriented, which is the source of the occasional startled snap that happens when a dog is woken abruptly. It's not aggression, it's an involuntary defensive reflex from a brain that was pulled out of deep unconscious processing without warning. Let them sleep. Watch from a distance. Most twitching and whimpering resolves within 30 seconds as they cycle forward. If your dog has prolonged, intense vocalizations during sleep on a regular basis, that's something worth mentioning to your vet at your next visit, but it's rarely an emergency requiring intervention in the moment. The old phrase really does hold up medically here: let sleeping dogs lie. This last one is the one I encounter most consistently in the clinic, and the one I think is most underestimated. Every dog, every breed, from a border collie to a bulldog, was developed with some form of working purpose. That purpose varied enormously depending on the breed, but the underlying drive didn't: to use their brain, to have something to engage with, to feel the particular satisfaction that comes from doing a thing that requires effort and focus. When we give our dogs a life that is comfortable but entirely passive, a good bed, a full bowl, couch time, daily walks around the block, we're meeting their physical needs while missing their psychological ones. And over months and years, that gap shows up. It shows up as destructive behavior, as excessive barking, as restlessness, or on the quieter end, as a kind of flatness, a dog that's physically fine, but whose spark has dimmed. Mental enrichment doesn't need to be expensive or complicated. The sniff walk we talked about at the beginning is one of the most powerful forms of it. A puzzle feeder instead of a bowl a few times a week. A 5-minute training session that introduces something new, even a simple trick. A frozen stuffed toy that takes sustained effort to work through. These things activate the same reward circuits in a dog's brain that a day of actual, purposeful work would. A dog that seems checked out, lazy, or quietly difficult is very often just a dog with unmet cognitive need. Before I recommend any behavioral intervention for those presentations, enrichment is almost always the first place I look. If you've been watching this and recognizing yourself in some of these, I want you to hear this clearly. Don't carry guilt about it. That's not what this is for, and it wouldn't serve your dog anyway. Every single habit I described today comes from a place of genuine love, from owners who brought a dog home and started doing what felt natural and kind. None of this is cruelty. It's just the gap between what we feel and what our dogs actually experience. And that gap is closable. The unhurried walk where you let them sniff, the soft blink across a quiet room, the low, steady voice when the thunder rolls in, the 5-minute training session that makes your dog feel capable and seen. These are not dramatic changes, but they're honest ones. They're the language your dog has been hoping you'd learn to speak. You don't have to fix all 10 things this week. Pick one, just one. Be intentional about it for the next few days and notice what shifts. I've watched clients make one small change in how they move through the world with their dog, and the dog notices. They always notice. Here's the one thing I'd ask you to take away from today. Your dog is not being difficult. They are not being dramatic or oversensitive. They are an entirely different species with a different brain, doing everything they can to communicate with you through the only tools they have. The fact that you're here, watching this, means you are already doing more than most people ever do. Leave me a comment below. I want to know which one of these surprised you most. Or if something came up while you were watching that you've been meaning to ask a vet about, write it down. I read through those comments and they shape what we cover next. Hit like if today's video gave you something useful. Subscribe for more honest, grounded dog health content. No panic, no hype, just the things that actually help. And if you know someone who loves their dog the way you love yours, send this to them. I'm Dr. Sean McKenna. Take good care of yourself and your dog. I'll see you in the next one.